Hey guys, and welcome to game number 5 out of 100 of the Mack vs. Machine series, where I'll be playing 100 games of Scrabble against the Woogles.io bot, HastyBot. The first 4 games have all actually gone my way, so we're off to a nice start, and hopefully we can keep it going in game 5, which will begin right now. Okay, so HastyBot has started with Kapus, and we have a decent looking rack. We've got ABDENST, and I do see unbasted from the U as a bingo. It doesn't score particularly well, and it does open a lot, but I'm pretty sure it's the only playable bingo. I don't think there are any 7s through the A in particular or any of the other tiles, so bingo is still a bingo, and I'm going to go ahead and play that. And he has struck right back with Endeavor through that D. So he's now up by almost 60. I have a decent rack here. Some good scoring tiles, especially the Z. I don't see a great spot right off the top of my head to play the Z for a lot of points. I could certainly do something like zip to this P for 34, which isn't terrible, but EFLLT is a bit consonant heavy for my liking, so I'm not a huge fan of zip. We can probably do better. As for getting rid of both the F and the Z, I don't see anywhere to really play Fizz or Fez. There's no R for Fritz. Yeah, I also wouldn't mind getting rid of one of these L's as well if we can. I have a hard time believing Zip is the best play, but maybe it is. Unfortunately, plays like Blitz or Bezel don't triple the Z. Maybe Zills over here. Although, I don't really love FAT is better than FELLT, but I'm also giving back some underlap, so I don't love Zills. I could also keep the Z and play something like Fillets over here for 28, which isn't crazy. Just given that my plays that shed the Z are really not all that inspiring, and if he doesn't use the F, I've got a great chance at playing something like Phase or Frizz for about 50 next turn. So there's a lot of upside to this play. Normally I don't love keeping the Z on these wide open bingo friendly boards, but I think just given the fact that I do have a very good chance at scoring 50 with it next turn, and the fact that none of my plays that play off the Z are particularly great or likely to bingo, I think this is reasonable here. So I'm going to just look for a few more seconds to make sure I didn't miss anything better through maybe this A or this S. But I don't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Okay, so he does play Axiom through that I, sort of obstructing the F, but I do now have a very strong play with the Z of Yes, which scores 56 points and keeps the blank. So that looks really nice. We're actually close to some crazy bingos here, like Merguez if the Y were an M, or even Zymergy, believe it or not, if that E were an M or another Y, which would be pretty insane. But unfortunately, this is something that happens a lot in Scrabble. If you think, oh, if only one of my tiles were something different, and it's easy to get frustrated, but it's just as, if not more important, to be able to move on and just know that that's part of the game, and soon enough your time for a crazy bingo will come. But unfortunately, I don't think it's this turn. We do have another nice option of Ruli here, but it's only 35. It does keep the Z, but Yes is, I think, just simply too many points not to play here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so he plays Verucas using one of the blanks, but I will definitely be bingoing now that I drew a nice rack here, and I think what I'm likely going to do is play this fun word of l'enjeu, or I don't know if my pronunciation there was best, but I'm sure I'll be corrected by some of the French-speaking Scrabble savants who regularly watch this channel if I butchered that. But this looks like a good play, 90 or 82 points, unless I have something from the V, which I'm not seeing. Vermulu almost works, but not quite. It's worth just a very brief look to see if I somehow have a 9 through this A and this E on the double-double. But it's pretty unlikely, so I'm just going to spend like a couple seconds here going through the alphabet. I'm definitely not going to spend a lot of time since it's a remote possibility. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's going to fit there, so I'm going to go ahead and play l'enjeu. We're staying very much in this game. It's certainly a shootout type of game, which I tend to enjoy. I love these open boards where it seems like you just keep bingoing. In this case, I don't unfortunately think a bingo is in the cards. However, we've got a really, really nice play over here of Peely, which scores 39 and gets rid of 2 of our I's as well as the P. So this looks quite strong. We actually could also play Pili, which is 45. This is kind of an interesting call. So it's 6 more points for keeping IRN versus EIRN. EIRN is certainly a stronger leave. There's no doubt about that. The one thing that's making me think maybe it's worth it to give up the E is there is this E floating on row 2. The 6 points could certainly come in handy. I'm going to be still playing from a slight deficit. On the other hand, keeping the E is really nice with that pool. There's a few E's left, but there's not a ton. And there's a lot of tiles there I don't want. There's a Q, there's a few W's. I feel like 6 is like kind of right on the border. If it were 8 or especially 10 points, I would definitely get rid of the E, but if it were only like 3 or 4, I would almost certainly keep it. So this is a pretty close call. I feel like I'm probably better off just keeping the E, because I really don't want to run into any sort of disaster scenarios where I end up having like one vowel and a bunch of clunky consonants next turn. It's got to increase my bingo percentage a pretty significant amount, I'd have to imagine, to keep the E. Overall, the vowel is, I guess, or the pool is fairly neutral. It's a very slightly consonant heavy, 18 to 25, but nothing dramatic enough that I feel like it's worth adjusting a ton based on that. Yeah, I feel like statically speaking, like in a vacuum, EIRN is probably somewhere between 6 and 8 better than IRN, is my guess. And I feel like here, if anything, the E is probably more valuable than average, just to minimize my chances of drawing more unwanted tiles. It also definitely helps my chances of hitting column B for a 7. So I'm going to go ahead and sack the 6 and keep the E here, I think. I could definitely be convinced it's imprecise, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, well now I'm definitely glad I kept the E. Since I did draw not one but both of the W's, which is of course not at all what I wanted. And if I didn't have the E, I'd really be struggling here. So I'd love to, of course, play something here, like W-E down, but unfortunately I can't reach the triple. The only thing I have that goes after B-E would be the and I'm stuck now. I don't have anything that goes after when, so that's unfortunate. I could play crew, which is 36. Also wince or wincer are options. Let's see, I have to imagine that one of those is going to be the best play. Yeah, I feel like this is a call between crew and wincer. The R is almost certainly not worth 5 points to keep. The question is W or WIN better here? It's kind of tough because IWN is a little bit safer in the sense it's less likely to turn into a disaster scenario, but on the other hand, there are still 5 I's left, so getting rid of the I does have its merits. See, what's the score? I'm down 58, so I'm not definitely going to have to bingo again, but there's a decent chance I'm going to have to bingo again. And IWN is probably slightly more likely to bingo. Windsor, I guess, does give me another lane here, but it's not that easy to hit with no S's left, so it's not that easy to overlap the W and the I, because DI isn't good, so I can't play ED. I don't think that's really a big factor. Windsor's 3 more points, which is obviously nice as well. I guess I could even play Wince and try to hit a W play from the JO, but I'm getting rid of my E, so I think that's pretty unlikely. I don't think it's enough upside to justify that. Yeah, this is another kind of close call. I don't want to spend too much longer since I'm down to 4 minutes. I feel like I'm going to play Windsor here, just for the extra couple of points. Okay, so we did get another I, but this is a little clunky, but it's not terrible. Have things like Withy, W-I-T-H-Y, if they'll play. I'm not really seeing a place to do that. I have Wig here in the corner, which actually almost ties the game. So that looks decent. Could also play with, which scores 7 less. Oh, actually I have Whitey through this I. This looks solid. That's 44. I think that's enough points that it's got to be worth it. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play that. Okay, this is getting very interesting here, guys. So now I'm definitely feeling like I can win this without a bingo, because I'm only down 18, and I have to imagine here that QI in the corner is correct. It's 35. It's really my only good spot to get rid of the Q. I could play Quinn through that U in Longeur, but I'm giving up way too many points, so this is pretty clearly correct. Oof, okay, so he's played HE, taking a small lead, and fortunately, we've got some end problems here. I do want to save time for this end game, because it could be very tight. I definitely don't want to empty the bag here and give him full rack knowledge. So I'd love to play off maybe 3. Looking maybe through this, I could play Tenny here. Keeps 2 in the bag, which is a good number. Makes his life and his ability to solve the position a bit harder. Doesn't score well, but nothing's going to really score well here. Keeps just about as good a lead as I'm going to get with this rack. It's either that or maybe Lin here. But I kind of like leaving 2 in the back, because that makes it harder for him to play out in 2, since he'll be drawing 2 tiles. So it's a bit harder for him to plan in advance, and I'm probably going to need him to not go out the next turn to win. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Okay, so now we have Flinder, which isn't going to play. He's rotative doesn't fit, so he's not threatening anything. This is going to be a tough endgame, guys, for me to solve in a minute, but I'm going to try. So I'm down 25. I'm going to need a good out in 2. Let's see, 25. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to score enough, unfortunately. Because he'll still be able to, maybe, how about like Diff? No. Oh, how about Durndal? That's cool. Because EF, yeah, EF is going to score. I think this is going to win, guys. Because EF will score me 20 in both of the corners, so I'm going up 3. I don't think he's going to be able to net 23 with that rack. He definitely doesn't have a bingo, because rotative doesn't fit. Yeah, I'm going for this. Yeah, this is going to be a win. His FE is going to be enough. And that should be my best out. Oof, what a game. What a game. That was easily the most intense game of the series so far. Ended up being a 9-point squeaker in my favor, 448 to 439. And very, very proud of that endgame under time pressure. Dirndl is always a tough word to see. I almost wonder if that was the only win in that position. I want to look at that, and yeah, I want to look at a lot of things this game. This was a really, really good game. I felt like I played well. He made a lot of good plays. So yeah, let's take a look. That was intense. That was really intense. Okay, so going back to the beginning, yeah, Kapu's I don't like. I'm not surprised he played it. It's better equity-wise, but I would definitely play Kapu there. It does take a T, which I guess is one argument against it. Like, normally it looks great to just set up your S, but the T hook does make the S hook a little less exclusive, so there is something to be said for that, but I just really hate putting S's in these triple lines. And early in the game, the S is pretty valuable to try to bingo and hook. So I don't think this is terrible. Given the T hook is probably closer than I'd normally judge it to be, I'm pretty sure I would still play Kapu here, though, personally. Unbasted, only bingo. Endeavor looks perfect. Okay, so yeah, Fillets looks good. Lefty, I didn't consider. I don't like this as much, though. Z is a bit better than LZ, and the F here is kind of nice for me just because of the potential, like I was talking about in the game, to play Frizz or Phase or something from that F. Zills is reasonable too, but EFT isn't that great, and I think Fillets has more upside, so I'm happy with this. He plays Axiom. Ooh, this is actually an interesting position from his perspective. Do you play Axiom? Do you play Moxa? Do you play Axon? Axiom is clearly worse than Axiom. Yeah, this is tough. So he's got a little bit of a lead with the blank. So he's in a good spot. I kind of like Axon, to be honest, because I'm not that big a fan of opening this S hook. It's also easy for me to score a lot above Moxa. So that doesn't look great. And I kind of like leaving the F, because I guess with EMR he's not that likely to hit it. But I feel like with Axiom he's just giving a lot back and keeping it a little bit tighter with the blank, whether he hits the F or he should hit this S very often. I kind of like just not giving as much back to me and trying to keep it tighter, since he's the favorite to hit all of the lanes that are on this board. So yeah, Yez is pretty clear here. Looked at really briefly, but way too many points to give up. Verucas is a solid find by him. Of course, I'm not in the slightest bit surprised that he found it, but still a nice play. That's clearly best. Oh, Rugulos is there as well. I didn't really look further in that spot once I saw Lungeur, but I think this is better anyway. Rugulos gives back a lot more on this right-hand side with the O and the E now both being next to bonus squares. The U there is really not that scary. The only thing that'll hurt me is an H or maybe an M or a P a little bit, but there's much more potential for big 40, maybe even 50-point plays with Rugulos if he can get multiple 4-pointers on these squares. So Lungeur looks fine. Jobs looks pretty solid for him there. Yeah, so I guess Pillai is statically a little bit better, he's saying. So I guess what this tells us, right, since Pillai is 6 more, that EINR is 5.2, I believe, better than INR in a vacuum, which makes sense. I figured it was like 6 or 7. And honestly, I can definitely live with either decision here. I ultimately just felt that the E was valuable enough given the relative lack of E's we're starting to see in the pool, and just wanting to have one less draw at the additional I's and the W's and stuff. I generally try to be risk averse if I'm in doubt when it comes to leave, just because, especially when you're coming from behind, having a bad clunky rack is so bad, and it's just going to really slow you down. So I think I'm good with my decision here. It certainly worked out for me. But yeah, I think that's fine. So here he plays Moose. I'm not sure I like Moose. It scores a lot, but it spends the last S, and it also opens a lot there. Dome? I kind of like Dome better because, I mean, it still opens the right-hand side. Keeping the S for lungers is really nice, though, and he's also possibly giving himself good plays with Jog if I'm unable to go there for whatever reason. I guess he could also play Groomed. This is probably the best play that doesn't use that spot. He's giving up a lot of points. Yeah, if he were up more than he is, I'd maybe say Groomed just to not give back that big bingo lane. But I get why at this score he felt like he needed to keep the scoring pressure on. I would, just given it's the last S, I would still favor Dome over Moose personally. Also probably Goose over Moose, just because the G is a bit harder to overlap. I can't put an A or an E there, or a Y like I can with an M. So definitely Goose over Moose, if you ask me. But yeah, this is close. I think Dome I would still favor, just because I really love having that last S, especially with the lungers hook right there. So I think this is a little bit of a strategic error by the bot. Yeah, this turn, I was pretty much between Windsor and Crew the whole time. I ultimately just felt it's 3 more points. The I and the N kind of go well together, but there's 5 I's left, and getting rid of the I is probably not a bad thing because of that. Just keeps the right-hand side slightly more open, too. So I think this is fine. Let's see. Giga for him looks alright. It's kind of a clunky rack. He can't score a lot of points. Going is also okay, but I mean, 6 points is in this close a game is definitely important. So I'm fine with this call. Yeah, Whitey looks good. It's just too many points not to play. I mean, obviously I'd rather keep 1 eye than 2. I don't think I actually looked at Whitey here. I was looking at with, and then I saw the word Whitey, and I just saw it here without considering a cross. But that being said, 14 points is way too much to give up for the cost of only keeping 1 more eye. Rough draw here for the bot. Audio seems solid to me. Scores as well as he's going to, gets rid of some vowels. 2 E's is a good leave, very good leave with this pool. Only 1 E left. They're becoming scarce, and 17 or 14-7 consonant to vowel is a bit consonant heavy. So this looks good. Yeah, QI. Oh, Quinton is interesting. I didn't actually see that. I just looked at Quinn. But I think I need the points here, and there's enough vowels where I've got a good enough chance at drawing 1 or 2 vowels on my next pool. So yeah, I'm still down. He's got scoring tiles. I also like blocking this spot. There's easy plays like Fat for him that score there. So I think QI is good. So here, let's see. He played He. It's hard to argue with this play. I mean, it scores pretty well. Ed is alright too. I mean, it scores, I guess, a couple more. Pool is consonant heavy, so I don't hate 3 vowels and 1 consonant. He does block a few of these bingo tiles, and if I bingo, I'll certainly win the game, so there is something to be said for that. I don't have a huge preference for leaving 5 versus 4 in the bag. Neither of them are great, because they both allow me, as I did, to play off a couple tiles while still leaving 1 or 2 in the bag for him. Like, ideally, for bag timing, he'd probably play off 4 tiles here, but that's not easy to do. Like, you have to go way down on the list to play 4 tiles, and actually header might not be bad here, to be honest. There's no S's left, so this spot is a non-issue. And AO doesn't feel great, but with that pool, it's actually a great leave, right? Because with 4 vowels and 10 consonants, if he's drawing 5 tiles, he's likely to get probably 4 consonants and a vowel, or maybe 3 consonants and 2 vowels. He's not going to have huge vowel trouble, given that pool. It leaves 2 in the bag, which is a really good number, because that's going to make life difficult for me in terms of trying to permute through all the pre-endgame possibilities. And I can't really play off 1 tile and score anything. I'm going to have to empty the bag. So this actually looks really, really strong here. And as it turns out, given I had 3 ends, I don't even know what I would have done after header. I would have had to empty the bag, and I have to imagine I would have lost. Because I couldn't score. I would have had to play like Intend or Lin. Yeah, this actually looks really good here. And I think this is just another example of why HastyBot does have some weaknesses in key moments of the game. It's very equity oriented, just points and leave, and it doesn't really think too much about things like endgame timing in terms of the number of tiles in the bag, or oh, this leave AO is not good on static, but maybe because of the pool it's actually really strong. So yeah, header looks like a great play to me here, and I'm going to have to say this is probably a missed opportunity for the bot. Given what I had, most certainly he would have won the game, and I have to imagine it wins more than he. Let's see, I didn't actually see Nannied in this position. That's a cool fit, but that being said, I still think 10 is a better play just because Nannied empties the bag. And when I empty the bag, I'm giving him full knowledge of my rack. We'll both have 7 tiles in the endgame. Nannied'll put me up only 5, which doesn't feel that great. If he has an out and 2 that scores even reasonably well, he'll get 2 plays, I'll get 1. And then he'll get extra tiles from my rack. Usually, I'd need to be up probably at least 20 or so if I think he has a decent rack to feel at all comfortable going into a situation like that. Pool is extremely balanced. 6 vowels, 6 consonants, several E's, R's, T's. He's extremely likely to be able to go out in 2. And I really don't see a good way for me to win at all after playing Nannied. So I think 10 looks good. I mean, I need to get rid of consonants. I need to not empty the bag. I feel like 2 in the bag is an ideal number. Makes his life and his planning a bit difficult. So I think this is a good play. And now let's look at this for him. So he played had, which I mean, it looks reasonable. I wonder if he should just drop an A, though, to not empty the bag. Because with had, he's scoring a few more points, but he is making my life more easy by now emptying the bag and allowing me full knowledge of his rack. Like, with a 1 in the bag pre-endgame, I have 8 possibilities still to compute through. It's easier than with 2 in the bag, because then I'd have 9 choose 2, which is 36 possible racks to permute. But even with 8, it's a lot harder for me to go through than with perfect knowledge of his rack. So I have to imagine that given that timing, Ha is most certainly better than had. I'm just wondering if he has any longer plays that might be worth it. The idea with a longer play would be basically banking on going out next turn, and then thereby depriving me of the chance to make 2 more plays and hopefully winning. So maybe something, yeah, Radar is interesting. I definitely like, I will say I definitely like Radar a lot better than had. Because if you're going to empty the bag, I'd much rather leave 5 tiles than 7, because then you're more likely to go out next turn, in which case he'll almost certainly win, or at the minimum he'll be just a lot more equipped to go out in 2, just more flexibility than if he had 7 tiles. So Radar is, I have to imagine, better than had. There are other options too. He could maybe have played like a boarded through this B if he's really trying to go out quickly. That's kind of interesting. Instead of Radar or Ha, if he plays a boarded now through this B, of course this isn't a bingo. The other A is still on the board. I just can't remove it for analysis purposes. Like, you have to imagine he's extremely likely, if not almost guaranteed, to be able to go out the next turn, right? Because he's drawing 2 with an A from that pool. Like unless he draws I or IE pretty much, I think he's... And actually if he draws IE, he's going to have 8 in both spots. So I think he's... And 2 consonants should go out every time. Like FL will easily go out. So yeah, unless he draws 2 I's, I think he's winning basically every time. Because aborted is 14. That puts him up 15. I guess I could bingo, though. That's, I could bingo, right? I could bingo with filtered or something through that E. But I could also bingo with filtered after radar or ha. And I guess the question is, does he have... I don't think he can't... I'm looking at now plays like Aerator here with the idea of blocking those bingos. But now if he keeps a D, he runs the risk of drawing 2 consonants and not being able to go out. So I don't think that's an option for him. And how about... No, aerated through this E doesn't fit. I don't think he can play off enough tiles through that V. Huh. Doesn't really have... I guess there's R, but there's not really any longer plays through that from that H. It might still... It's probably still just worth it, though, to play aborted. I mean... Or does orated play anywhere for a big score? I don't think so. Doesn't quite fit here. But yeah, I mean, if he plays aborted... So he goes up 15, and if he's going out, I just don't see how I'm going to be able to score enough to outrun that. Like, even if I have the F and a flexible rack, if I can't bingo, there's nowhere for me to really score more than like 25 maybe, if that even. Certainly plays like if under aborted, he'll score 22, which would put him only down 7 with me still having 5 tiles on my rack. So any outplay he has will win easily. So I have to imagine aborted wins, basically, unless he draws II, in which he can't go out, or if I bingo. Let's see, me bingoing, so it's going to have to be through that E or the V. I see filtered, tide line. I guess there are a couple here that he does need to worry about. Flintier wouldn't fit. I'm just quickly kind of going through the possibilities. So the way I guess this is sort of instructive. The way I look at this kind of position, if I'm trying to figure out like my bingo possibilities, I'll just sort of go alphabetically. Like I'll think, okay, DE. What if DE are in the bag? Because I know 2 are in the bag. So DE, that's just flintier. I know, so I'll move on. So DF, I see there's lintier nitrile, a 7s, which wouldn't play. Interlie is no good, so nothing through the E. So then I'll go DI, which is flinter, not a word. Nothing through the E. DL, niftier. Oh, ferritin actually fits through the R with DL, which isn't great. Oh, and actually, you know what? I just realized something. DF loses. Nitrile. Nitrile would fit, actually, next to audio, as crazy as that is, with a 4-way overlap. So that's also something to watch out for. I guess I do bingo an annoying percentage of the time here. So that is something to consider. And what you have to do here is basically kind of play the odds and figure out, okay, like how many different draws do I bingo with after aborted, whereas after a play like radar, that blocks a couple of those bingos. Basically, what you need to figure out is blocking those bingos worth it, right? And what that means is, do I win more often by blocking those bingos and depriving him of a win with those wrecks than I lose by not guaranteeing myself an out next turn? Like, for instance, after a radar, I'm quite confident that there are some draws here where he would lose. Although it might not be that easy, because so he's going up 25. If he draws more vowels, then I'm going to have a hard time probably going out in 2, just because I can't really score. Like, even if I can go out in 2, it might be tough for me to outrun him. Because, like, let's say he draws maybe IT. Like, if in what actually happened in the game, right? If he draws IT, I have Flinder, but that doesn't play. And I need to go out in 2 and make up 25, which isn't easy. I had this amazing out in 2 with Durndal, which I don't have now. And, I mean, I'd need to probably put this into Quackle to be sure, but I'm looking at things like Redfin through this E for me, and I mean with EITTO, he can still score something. I mean he can play things like Toad and Toe for which will net him another 10. So I don't see myself being able to net about 35 points, which is about what I would need. I'm just not seeing really a way for me to do it with that rack. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, this is a really, really tough position, guys, and I could spend an hour probably analyzing all the possibilities, but I don't want this video to take too long. Maybe I'll make a separate video just analyzing this pre-endgame in absolute 100% detail. But for now, I think Radar looks really good to me. I'm starting to think that even though he might not guarantee an out, it scores enough and deprives me of a couple bingos, Ferritin and Nitrile, that it's looking like it might be worth it over aborted, and definitely I don't like had at all. I think that just leaves me too much flexibility and doesn't really stop that many. I guess it does stop a few bingos, but I have to imagine that Radar will win a lot more endgames than had just by leaving him fewer tiles and more flexibility. So it's tough to say without really deep analysis and literally going through one by one what the best play is between things like aborted and Radar and maybe a few other possibilities. It's also worth looking at HA a bit more, though I can't imagine that's best. I don't think allowing me to then try to go out in 2 is a good idea. So yeah, this is tough. This is a really tough one, guys. But these positions are really, really important, and I think I maybe will make another video on this at some point, just kind of going through all the possible lines in this position, because it's really interesting. But my instinct is sort of telling me that Radar is right here, but I could easily believe aborted is too, or maybe even Haar. So yeah, let's leave it at that for now. But really, really cool position. We'll come back to this at some point. And let's see here. So he's saying Fielder, but does that win? Because sometimes his endgame evaluations here are off. Because where am I going to score enough with my N? So if I play Fielder, that's 23. So I'm still down 2, and after Rot, which he played, that's 18. I'm down 20. I'd be getting 4 from his back. I'd need 16 with an N, and there's no way that's happening. So this is not right. So I'm gonna quickly, actually, there's a cool feature on Woogles I'll show you guys. If you export this game as a GCG, and then you should be able to open it up in Quackle. So if I do open, and then this one here. So yeah, with this position, with Championship Player, it's generally pretty good with endgames if there's no crazy situation like a Q-stick. Once there's sticks, it becomes a bit of a disaster, but if it's a sort of traditional out in 2 endgame, it's usually pretty reliable. So I'm just curious to see if Durndal is best and if it's the only win. I almost certainly am going to need to go out in 2 here. Wow, so Durndal is the only win, which is crazy. Oh, let me move the webcam, guys. Sorry, I don't know if you can see the evaluation. But yeah, Durndal is the only win in this position. The next best play is Rind over here, which looks like it loses by 5. So let's see what would have happened. If I had played Rind, then yeah, his best play, his only win becomes Edda in the corner. And now I go out with flee or feel, and I lose by 5. Wow. So yeah, I had to find Dirndl. So that was an extremely clutch play by me in the endgame. I definitely knew I'd have to go out in 2 and score a lot. And once I was looking in this spot at plays like diff, which I concluded weren't going to go out in 2, and luckily I saw this word, which can be notoriously tough to spot. And then he made, what's tied for several of his best plays. He played Rot, and then I went out with FE up here, which is equal with EF in the corner. So yeah, and this is exactly what played out in the game. So yeah, what a crazy game, guys. This was a great game all around. I think I feel like I played really well. I can't pinpoint any turns that I feel confident I made a mistake. There were a few decisions like Peely and Windsor maybe that weren't clear. The end game, I think I played great. I was super clutch, especially under the time pressure. I do think at some point I want to make another video going through that crazy pre-end game in a bit more detail, especially his had play, because I think that's a really instructive position, and there's a lot to unpack there. That this video's already over 40 minutes, and I would extend it to well over an hour if I tried to fully unpack it. So yeah, what a game, guys. We are now up 5-0 in this series, and that one I feel like we really earned. That was a great game. I felt like drawing was pretty solid in both directions. I didn't feel like I outdrew him that much like I did in a few of the other ones. So really happy with this game. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and yeah, definitely, like I said, there was a lot here. So any thoughts, anything I might have glossed over, feel free to point it out in the comments or any other suggestions, as always. And for everyone who made it through this whole video, I much appreciate it, and hope you got something out of it and enjoyed it and found it interesting. And we'll be back soon for game number 6, and hopefully we'll have as much of a gym as this one. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.